So, Betamon was a good example of a creature with a lot of character and what we as writers can take and make from those details, so now we're going to examine the opposite. Betamon is nothing special. At a glance, there's nothing to take away from it or any of its forms besides it maybe looking kind of cool. This thing doesn't make a strong impression and doesn't present any obvious personality that does it any favors. And we're going to talk about all the shortcomings in the way Betamon looks and presents its personality, how those shortcomings fail the fantasy Seadramon shoots for, guess I'm going back outside, and what we can make out of it anyways. I'm Numu, coming to you from the box in the middle of everything. So, that fantasy you mentioned, we should probably start with the end result in that case, right? Right you are. And whether it's Metal Seadramon or Giga Seadramon, what do you mean it starts out as the stupid fish? They don't share the same body type, the same colors, the same dispositions, or anything. You could kinda interpret Betamon's fin as a horn, and that'd be a fun way to tie them all together, but then Seadramon's the odd one out, and there has to be something. Maybe it's a loss of complacency or innocence. Or if we want to be a bit more positive, it could be maturity. Like, Betamon gradually gets larger and more menacing as it digivolves, but it also loses more and more color with every stage. And the transition from the organic body to an entirely mechanical one could be interpreted as jadedness. That's something. Metal Seadramon at least has the cold and unfeeling robot thing going on, and that gives us room to twist the Mega Digivolution as Betamon either fully locking in or going past the deep end. With a subject like that, it's important to get an idea of where we're supposed to end up before we start sifting for specifics. And about those specifics, where do we even start? Betamon's green? They're an amphibian, so they're probably pretty receptive and adaptable? Please get me something better than that. The claws tell me that it's not exactly docile, but that beak, curved as it is, tells me that Betamon eats plants and fruit. So the claws are for defense? Betamon is an amphibian Digimon. We got that already. It walks on 4 legs. Cut the jokes. But although it's a docile Digimon, once Betamon is angered, it emits its electric shock from its body. So I can interpret this as being reclusive. Being amphibious implies that it can function anywhere, and that its preference isn't going to necessarily center around survival. It has the ability to go where it wants, but it goes to land or stays in the water because... what? That's a blank to fill. And we mean blanks surrounded by context. The why needs to be up to interpretation. If too many of our answers come from questions without constants, then it gets really hard to make a personality that feels authentic. If we wanted, we could just treat the Digimon like we would any other character, giving them a personality that we feel fits the story and interacts best with the setting or other characters, and anyone who likes Betamon is absolutely free and encouraged to make them have whatever personality they want. That's part of the charm of having such a basic creature as your companion, after all, but for us, that isn't good enough. Betamon can go anywhere it wants, presumably is an herbivore, and zaps anything it doesn't want touching it with a current that comes straight from its body. Comfort is a word that comes to mind. Because it's an aquatic Digimon, a go-with-the-flow personality isn't going to raise any brows. Yeah, but how many aquatic Digimon are there, man? Save the easy video for a harder nut. I think we've got this one cracked. Especially if we take the evolution of Betamon to Seadramon and the heavy contrast as a cue for the personality to flip instead. You didn't forget about the concept of contrast, did you? No, but for a case like this, we need to talk about more than just the start and the finish. And we're off to the races. Seadramon is a similarly blank slate, but we have a few more generics to work with. The first thing is that this thing is awesome, looks dangerous, and wouldn't look out of place at the side of any kind of fighter. If we went back to that Digimon Battle League idea, we could slap this on a random nobody background tamer without any concern or worry. Its sheer size, however, means that there's no realistic way for it to be the default form this line takes on. All in all, though, this is the form we're using to dig our heels in. It's also, funnily enough, the least interesting of the bunch. Seadramon doesn't have intelligence or speech, and it swims around according to its instincts. We should all be willing to handwave that, because any personality is preferable to none. This is a strong, imposing sea serpent Digimon. We could take from snakes and reflect the imagery in a really conniving and underhanded tamer, keeping Seadramon themselves as more of an indifferent muscle sort of character to pair with them, or we could lean into the more mythological bits. Seadramon is a champion of the unexpected. A safe voyage through treacherous waters is only life or death once the sea serpents start cresting over the waves, so the appearance of Seadramon, and by extension Seadramon's tamer, should come with a similar impact. I'm making them seem like an inherently evil-coded Digimon. So, being undermining doesn't really paint a picture of a hero, but it's not really grand enough to be a mainstay villain. In those contexts, Seadramon is the kind of partner that fits better with vigilantes and lieutenants. A creature that functions purely off of instinct slots in nicely with a tamer who operates completely off of a personal code or under orders from another. The lazy Betamon and carefree Seadramon both lean under an umbrella of indifference. Let me explain. They don't want to spend their nights beating up on bad guys, but someone has to. They don't want to bust kneecaps and scare people out of protection payments at the end of every week, but that's their job. Morality and obligation both have a certain flow to them, a current for people to ride on. These are natural things, and offer room to develop in line with the direction of the water, or for the creatures in the partner to turn against it. Okay, I think we have our thesis. So let's stick to it. Betamon and Seadramon are the Digimon for the person who lets greater causes guide their actions. Leisure, comfort, morality, professionalism, etc. The destruction they bring about through the waters they make treacherous come from nothing but a byproduct of them existing and going about their life. So they're lawful neutral? Let's try true neutral. This is a creature without interest other than going through the motions. It pairs well with someone with strong directions, either as a hand to help them enforce the ideas that make them who they are, or as one to stop them from fixating too much on those ideas. Justice and subordination in the cases from before. But when Seadramon digivolves, it becomes a Digimon with purpose. Its body becomes a size larger, that's confidence. The carapace covering its head gets harder, that's stubbornness. And a lightning bolt-shaped blade grows out of its skull. And spears have plenty of association with precision, focus, and directness. One of the benefits of intelligence is developing a sense of reason. Mega Seadramon isn't guided by instincts like Seadramon is, and that simple distinction means we, they, and their tamer will have to start adding skepticism to the mix. We inject morality into the equation and turn Mega Seadramon into a junction. You cannot continue going with whatever flow catches your fins. You have to take initiative, and you have to take it hard. Do you decide to stay as a cog in the machine and lean into your role as a tool for a purpose, or do you start drawing on your own motivations and start building yourself up for your own sake? Holy shit, we did it! Betamon is a selfish Digimon, and I say that affectionately. The whole line reads to me as someone starting out going through the motions and only looking out for themselves, developing to a point where it's no longer acceptable to not be your own person and making a choice. It's here that we start getting our boxes. Betamon the slacker, Betamon the free spirit, Betamon the indulgent. Move it around a bit. Betamon the self-centered, Betamon the free spirit, Betamon the recluse, Betamon the scoundrel, Betamon the bum, Betamon the hermit, Betamon the parasite. The Venn diagram idea is actually pretty handy. Thanks, but you made them the villain again. The rule of thumb we're working with now is that all of the personalities we laid out and all of the personalities opposite of those will project onto the Betamon line. Betamon the altruist works. The right thing to do can come to Betamon and Seadramon naturally, and when Mega Seadramon comes around you get a lot of options. What is the fork in the road? Which one leads to Metal Seadramon, which one leads to Giga Seadramon? The smaller, more crude-looking Metal being the bad option when compared to the hulking, high-tech, bright and beaming behemoth that is Giga. The fork could be the realization that what they're doing hasn't actually been making a difference, or whether or not to keep going as they have been, or to take themselves above and beyond to actually start doing good. It could also be a fork of interest. Maybe they are doing better as part of the process, and the right thing to do is to discover a genuine want to do the right thing in your own way, or in a way that makes more of an impact than whatever they've been doing, and that gives them Giga Seadramon. Or, let's not flip this one. Betamon the free spirit has to decide between accepting that life is in their hands, they just have to stop coasting and take it for themselves, versus deciding that no one has any power over fate and the best course of action is to continue blindly going along with it and hoping for the best. And if you don't want to get deep with it, Betamon can belong to a turncoat. They spend their Mega Seadramon phase questioning the people they ride with, and their sticking with the people holding them back gets the Metal Seadramon, at least until they finally break free, join the party that's best for them, and get Giga Seadramon instead. This outline we have for Betamon turns the stupid fish into a mirror for most kinds of partners, but it keeps their motivations in the reflection instead of their personality. An entrepreneur down on their luck, a creative torn between private and corporate, an idol, an officer, or a reporter or something, all trying to make the world a better or brighter place and either rekindling their motivation as something more than just obligation, or succumbing to the darkness of the profession. Giga Seadramon Popstar actually kinda goes absurdly hard. I'm getting distracted. There are far worse things to get distracted by. These are characters, after all. It's good that we can get invested in an idea or two of ours. Not every form a character takes will have the same amount of things to say about them. So it's up to the collection in cases like Betamon's. I'll admit the conclusion we have wouldn't be nearly the same if Mega Seadramon didn't turn into a machine. The connotations of cold and unfeeling tool and refined unstoppable bulldozer that will accomplish whatever it sets out to do are usually lopped in together, but I like them better when a line is drawn and they're used in contrast of one another. That's what turns Mega Seadramon into a point of divergence and gives meaning to that little note of it finally having intelligence. My interpretation of Betamon and Seadramon obviously isn't law or anything, but it stokes the coals and gets the imagination flared up at least a bit. Everyone's Betamon will wind up different, even if they just keep it in these boxes, and I'd love to hear all about how your ideal Betamon would be given all that information down in the comments. But the boxes are there for you to build branches out of. Take the details and twist them to your liking. Fill up the boxes or flip them on their heads first. My Betamon would have just turned into a Mega Seadramon. This is a working stickman's Digimon, one that turned into a champion as I finally made a bold step into a current I wanted to ride, and became its current ultimate form once I stopped swimming and took a breath. Is creation recognition? Is it doing the things that work just for the recognition, or is it doing what you feel would make you more satisfied? Is creation a project, or is it an exercise and a result to use as a stepping stone to lift yourself up higher? What I'm saying is that I'd really want a Giga Seadramon, and as someone who never paid much if any mind to Betamon in the past, never seeing it as anything more than just a dumb fish who evolves into a cool generic sea monster, the act of simply dissecting the things I see brought me to a crossroads all its own. Do I write Betamon off as a drop in a lake? A flop among surely dozens, and churn an analysis out half-heartedly so I can keep making and get to the Digimon I'm more passionate about? Or do I take a breath, take my time, and put in the effort into understanding it on a hunch that there must be something there? It pays to take a good hard look at things, and while Betamon still isn't the right Digimon for me, I'm sure it's the Digimon for a fair few of you.